Over the past few videos on this channel, we have explored the principles of effective data visualization and the psychology behind how our minds process visual information, understanding how our brains perceive contrast, how cognitive overload can hinder comprehension, and why it's crucial for text to align with our visuals. However, simply knowing these principles isn't going to make you a great data visualization artist. The real learning happens when we examine poorly executed data visualizations in action. That is why we are thrilled to launch a 3-part series we are calling Chart Crime Scenes, where we will critique poorly designed charts, discuss their flaws, and show how they can be improved. Let's begin with an example that fails right from the start due to improper contrast. Today on Art+Science. Hey there, I'm Kevin Hartman, Associate Professor at the University of Notre Dame and founder of the Art+Science Analytics Institute, where our mission is to make you a better data analyst. We start this series with contrast because if a chart doesn't guide the eye, nothing else really matters. We are programmed to pick up visual contrast. It is the first thing we see. Good charts direct attention. They use contrast in size, color, and shape to show you what's important. Bad charts make everything compete for your attention, and that leaves you, the viewer, overwhelmed. So when you're evaluating contrast in a data visualization, ask yourself a few things. What do I notice first? And just as importantly, is that the right thing that I should be noticing? You will look for size contrast, are bigger elements signaling bigger importance. Color contrast are bold or bright colors being used to intentionally highlight key points. Shape contrast are different shapes helping clarify meaning. And what we call contrived contrast are there visual cues, arrows, boxes, callouts that guide your attention on purpose. Contrast is how we create visual hierarchy. It's what tells the eye where to go. So we're going to begin with a chart that goes off track from the very start. So check out this visualization called How Baby Boomers Describe Themselves. It certainly is striking, featuring bright colors and a segmented, labeled human figure. Yet the design choices detract from how effectively the information is and can be conveyed. Let's examine the visual pattern in this data visualization. What we're seeing here is relativity. This concept involves observations in relation to something else. The key principle is that when displaying parts of a whole, they must collectively equal 100%. If not, the structure becomes unreliable, confusing the audience. The main flaw with this chart is that the human icon suggests a complete whole. Humans are one thing. Yet the percentages for different attributes add up to 243%, creating confusion. If the figure represents a baby boomer, it can't account for more than 100%. This issue arises from respondents selecting multiple attributes. That's the only way that this might have been pulled together, causing totals to exceed 100%. They're allowing the respondents to choose as many of the attributes as they want. So really, this isn't showing relativity in a classical sense. This chart is showing the prevalence of each attribute, not the relative proportion of it. When a visualization represents data within a single form, viewers assume it represents a whole. To ensure clarity and accuracy, make sure your values add up to 100%. The audience perception of visual shapes is similar to how they will interpret pie charts. When a shape is divided into segments, these segments need to collectively create a unified whole. Otherwise, viewers may question the data reliability rather than focusing on the insights offered. When data contains multiple responses from the same person, such as when participants can choose more than one characteristics like they can in the way that this data was surveyed, it is crucial for the visual display to reflect this reality. A bar chart would be just a simple way to make sure that you are collecting all of the data or representing all of the data that has been collected. Now, once you've chosen the right visual form, the following step is to apply it in a way that enhances creativity and clarity through contrast rather than causing confusion. So once we resolve the structural problem, it is essential to make sure the audience can clearly understand the data. This is where contrast, an important element of visual communication, becomes essential. Contrast allows us to draw attention, highlight key information, and ensure that the audience sees the most important aspects first. Unfortunately, this chart uses contrast incorrectly in many, many ways. When size is utilized as a visual indicator, it needs to accurately reflect the values it represents, which isn't the case here. Look, the largest segment, the people-savvy segment, is 78%, and that really should stand out visually, but it just doesn't. In fact, it looks smaller than the willing-to-learn segment, which is represented by the torso, but is supposed to only represent 61% of the data, feel 17 percentage points smaller than the people-savvy, but the willing-to-learn looks like the largest segment. Then you've got the creative segment at the feet, the leaders at the head. They are supposed to be the same size. They don't look the same. In fact, the tech-savvy section, which is the mid-section, is from surface area, looks about the same as the leaders. It's supposed to be half the size. The whole thing is a mess. All the data segments are represented incorrectly, causing confusion, causing the audience to start questioning the data or spend too much time trying to figure out the data rather than seeing the story that's being presented. The fix here is simple. If you are using size to depict data, make sure the proportions correctly correspond to the values. The chart uses bold and vivid colors for each category, but there seems to be no clear reason for this decision. As a result, nothing stands out effectively. Instead of drawing attention to key insights, the strong contrast across all the sections reduces the importance of any single element. You see everything rather than the things that should really jump out and pop. The fix here is to use contrast intentionally by selecting a muted base color and an accent color that is a brighter hue. You can draw attention to that part of the data that you have applied the brighter hue. The important information in that section then jumps out. It pops off the page. All the other data competing with it for focus falls to the background in a muted color. Now in this data viz, each category is depicted by the human figure. But does this method effectively communicate the data? Right now, the chart relies solely on color to differentiate between categories. There's no variations in shape, texture, or symbols to help the audience quickly identify the differences. So instead of cramming all the information into a single human figure, use diverse visual formats like icons, or just create this visual in a simple bar chart to clearly distinguish between the categories. The annotations on the far right next to the numbers are part of what we would call contrived contrast. And while they definitely do add some flair to this data visualization, they don't really enhance its clarity. Instead, they divert attention from whatever the key insights would be without offering any kind of helpful context. What's more, there is no logical reason for why these two categories have been called out by the annotations. Typically, we will use annotations to add important context or draw further attention to important data, but these just seem to be done randomly. The fix is pretty easy. Annotations should complement the main insight, not distract from it. Make sure that the annotations you are applying to your data visualization provide some kind of important context that supports the bigger, broader message of the chart. This example is a great reminder. Contrast isn't just about making things look different. It is about guiding the audience's focus. First, choose the right visual form. If your data comes from various responses, avoid using a stacked layout that implies a complete whole. Next, use size contrast effectively. Data representation should be proportional and accurate. Don't use size to encode information unless it is appropriate and unless it's done accurately. Apply color contrast thoughtfully. Highlight the most important insights instead of giving everything the same level of importance by using highly contrasting colors for all the elements of the chart. Integrate shape contrast. Don't rely solely on one visual cue like color. Use icons, textures, or a layout that adds meaning. Be intentional with your annotations as well. Ensure that any additional elements make things clearer instead of causing confusion. When a data pattern like relativity is used effectively with contrast, insights become clear. When they are misused, the audience struggles and misunderstandings arise. In our next investigation, we will dive into a common mistake in data visualization, cognitive overload, caused by confusing titles, headlines, and labels, all contributing to a chart that obscures its meaning. Get ready for an example where too little information, not too much, obscures the central message, leaving the audience struggling to understand it. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, take a moment and subscribe to this channel. Like this video and share it with anyone who you think is interested in data analytics. Every single week, we are bringing new, exciting, and important videos on data analytics to this channel. We would love to have you there for the journey. Be sure to check out the links in the description for additional art science resources and sign up for our newsletter to get exclusive tips, course updates, and more directly to your inbox. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.